Hi friends! Welcome to this week's math video. Today we're going to be learning all about elapsed time. SOL 4.9 says the student will determine elapsed time in hours and minutes within a 12-hour period. And please note that this SOL is not covered in this year's math curriculum. So this video in particular is going to be very important to pay close attention to and maybe view it more than once. All right, friends, now before you get too far in the video, please make sure you have these papers printed out. You're going to follow along with me today on your paper. This is really going to help you follow along and understand this concept a lot better. So go ahead and pause this video if you don't have these printed yet. Make sure you do. So you will need to know how to solve real-world problems. In other words, they're going to give you story problems involving time, and you have to know how to solve them. So I have noticed 3 different types. Sometimes they're asking you to find the elapsed time, such as, how long was the girl gone? Or how long did the movie last? Sometimes they ask you to find the starting time. When did the girl leave? Or what time did the movie start? And finally, sometimes they're asking you for the end time. When did the movie end? Or when did the girl get home? Something like that. And sometimes it's challenging because in my experience, sometimes I have found a solution or a strategy for finding the elapsed time that doesn't really work very well when trying to find the starting time. Or I found a strategy that works really good with finding the ending time, but doesn't work when I'm trying to find the elapsed time. And so it's been a source of frustration for me over the years. And a couple years ago, I found a strategy that works with all 3 kinds, and I love it. And it is called the mountain strategy. Now this may be brand new to you, and it may be brand new to your parents, so you might want your learning coaches to watch this video too so they can help you with it. So for the mountain strategy, we're going to be building a timeline, and we're going to pretend that we're traveling through time. And when we are creating 1 hour, we're going to make a mountain with a pointy top. When we are making hills, they're going to be curved and large, and you can choose what kind of minute increments that you use. Maybe you'll use 30, 20, 15, 5, or 10. It depends on you. I would start maybe with 10s and 5s until you get really familiar with how to do it, and then you could change it depending on what works best. And then finally you're going to have rocks, and those are smaller bumps and they're just 1 minute. Okay, so let's look at a problem together. For this one, we're going to find the elapsed time. It says Greg was dropped off at the movies at 4:40 p.m. and his mom picked him up at the theater at 7:37 p.m. How long was Greg at the theater? So now you see here below that I have a timeline. And so what I would like you to start to get into the habit of doing is following a timeline. So you're going to create a timeline, create a starting box, an ending box, and then an elapsed time box. So every time you're solving one of these time problems, just get into the habit of creating this. Now I have sent you in your email a worksheet for you to follow along with me. So make sure that you have that in front of you, and you will see this very thing in front of you. And you can follow along as I solve it. I want you to do it on your paper as well so that you can have some great examples to refer back to. Okay, so let's take a closer look at our story problem. Right here, it says that Greg was dropped off at the movies at 4:40. Here it says he was picked up at the theater at 7:37. And here's our question. How long was Greg at the theater? Okay, so where do these go on my timeline? This is when he was dropped off. This is our starting time. And this is when he was picked up. And this is going to be, in this box, we'll write how long he was at the theater. So we know from our story that he was dropped off at 4:40. And we know from our story that he was picked up at 7:37. But what we don't know is how long Greg was at the theater. That's what we're going to find out by doing the mountain strategy. Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to start at 4:40 and we're going to add 1 hour as we're traveling all the way to 7:37. We're going to travel and we're going to make one mountain, and then we have to put our new time. We're adding 1 hour with that. That's 5:40. And then we're going to make another mountain and put the new time, 6:40. See how we're just adding an hour as we're traveling? Now, if I used another mountain, I would get to 7:40, which would put me past 7:37. That's too much. So now we're going to start using hills. And I'm noticing that our time here says 7:40. And if I added 20 minutes to that, that would make an even 7 o'clock, right? So let's do that because that makes it easy. So we're going to say 7 o'clock. We're still traveling our way to 7:37. So now I'm going to make some hills. I could do this a variety of ways, but I'm going to use 10-minute hills. You always want to put the amount of minutes underneath the hill and the rocks. And then put the new time as you're traveling down here. So I added 10 minutes. I'm going to add 10 more minutes. Add 10 more minutes. Ooh, I'm already to 7:30 now. I just have a little bit longer to go. Add another hill with just 5 minutes, because if I added 10 minutes, I'd again go past 7:37, and I don't want to do that. So I want to go to 7:35. Now I'm super duper close. So I'm going to add some rocks, which are just 1 minute. 1 minute will take me to 7:36, and 1 more minute gets me to 7:37. Okay, so I've made my way to 7:37. So now what you have to do is go back and count. How many mountains? 1, 2. 2 hours. How many minutes? 20, and I'm just counting. 30, 40, 50, 55, 56, 57. All right, 57 minutes. That is how long Greg was at the theater. Wonderful. All right, so now I'm going to have you try one where you're finding the elapsed time. Your problem says, a basketball team left the school on the bus at 2:55 p.m. and returned at 5:45 p.m. What was the total amount of time that passed between the time this team left and returned to the school? So on the back of your paper, you will see this question, and your timeline is right there. I want you to use that timeline, and I want you to work it out with your mountains, hills, and rocks, just like I showed you. Give it a try, and see if you can come up with the right answer. All right, friends, we're going to try another one together. So flip your page over to sample problem number 2, all about Harry. This one, we are finding the starting time. So I have my timeline here like you have on your paper, but I need to add a starting box, an ending box, and an elapsed time box. Okay, let's read the story. Harry finished repairing his shower at 7:29 p.m. He began 3 hours and 45 minutes earlier. What time did Harry begin the job? Okay, so if I didn't have this all color coordinated, then I could figure that out on my own because it says Harry finished the job at 7:29 p.m. And it says he began 3 hours and 49 minutes earlier. So if it tells you how many hours, how many minutes, that's the elapsed time. And here it's asking, what time did Harry begin the job? So this is the part that we don't know. And so we're going to find this. So in order to use our mountain strategy in this way, we're going to start at the end time and go backwards in time for 3 hours and 45 minutes until we get to the start time. Okay, so I'm going to start by using my mountains. And this time I'm just going to use my pencil tool and you use your pencil and we'll do it together. So I'm going to make one mountain. How many mountains am I going to end up having to make? Look at this. I need 3 hours, so that means I need 3 mountains. So since I'm going back in time, I'm going to subtract these hours. So I started at 7:29, now I'm at 6:29. 5:29. And 4:29. Okay, so now I did my 3 hours. So that part's done. Now I have to travel for 45 minutes. Okay, so I'm at 4:29. So let's do 10-minute hills. Remember, we're going backwards, so we're subtracting. 4:29 minus 10 minutes would be 4:19. Okay, minus 10 minutes, 4:09. Minus 10 minutes, well, minus 9 minutes would get me to 4 o'clock. And then if I subtract 1 more minute, it would be 3:59. So I've subtracted 30 minutes so far. Now I need 10 more. 3:49. And now I just need 5 more minutes. So subtract 5 minutes, 3:44. So I can confidently put 3:44 as the starting time. That answers my question of what time did Harry begin the job? There it is at 3:44 p.m. Wonderful. All right, now it's your turn to try to find the starting time for this story. Read it carefully, flip your worksheet over. It's on the back side, and you can use that timeline, make your mountains, hills, and rocks, and find the answer. All right, friends, we have one more that we're going to do together. So flip your page over to sample problem number 3 about Jen. For this one, we're going to be finding the ending time. So on your paper, you have your timeline. I am missing a starting box, an ending box, and an elapsed time box. Okay. So let's read it together. Jen started her homework. Ooh, I heard a clue word. Jen started her homework at 3:45, and she worked for 2 hours and 37 minutes. What time did she finish her work? Ooh, I could figure this one out also if I didn't have those color coordination, because Jen started at 3:45 and she worked for 2 hours and 37 minutes. So I know that's how long she worked. And then the question says, what time did she finish? So this is what I'm going to find, the ending time. So this time I'm going to start at the beginning. And I'm going to work my way down the timeline for 2 hours and 37 minutes until I find the end time. Okay, so how many mountains am I going to need for this one? 2 mountains. So let's do one at a time. 3:45, since I'm moving forward on the timeline, I'm going to be adding. So 3:45, I'm going to put 4:45. Mountain number 2 takes me to 5:45. Okay, we did the 2 hours. Now we just have to write our 37 minutes. Okay, so I am going to make a hill. There's lots of different ways to do it. You can do what works best for you. I think I'm just going to do 10 minutes. 5:45 plus 10 minutes is 5:55. Okay, so now I'm coming to the end of the hour. So plus 5 minutes would be 6 o'clock, and then 5 more would be 6:05. Okay, I need to add 37 minutes. I'm up to 20, so let's do another 10. 6:15. And let's do a 5-minute hill. 6:20. So that's 35 minutes. I need 37 minutes, so I'm going to make 2 little rocks. 6:21. And then one more little rock. And I end at 6:22. So Jen finished her work at 6:22. All right, it's your turn. Work through this problem and find the end time for Peter. Flip your page over and use that timeline. Make your mountains, hills, and rocks. All right, friends, that may have been a very challenging lesson for a lot of you, and that's okay because it's something new, and whenever we're learning something new, it's challenging at first, right? But guess what? The brain is like a muscle. So your brain is going to get stronger when you embrace these challenges and work through them. And it's okay if you're making mistakes because what? It's proof that you're trying, and that's what I like to see. So we'll get some great practice with this week. All right, friends, thanks so much.